Hi, this is a summary part of the Safe for version 1 demonstration that we've been working on. Hopefully you've been looking at some of the other parts and seeing how we set up and manage the different pieces. Today we're going to walk through an end-to-end view. We're going to give you the full picture from one side from the top side of the planning cycle all the way down to the individual tasks. So we're going to walk through a day in the life, really starting by putting our strategic themes here at a high level. We're going to add our epics here. We're going to add our user stories and our features down here. And then ultimately, we're going to get down to the task level and complete those tasks. So today, we're just going to do a quick walkthrough and show you how we can get through each one of those in terms of adding different assets. I'll try to switch roles as we go through the different parts of this. So I'm starting out at the high level. We're going to be at a high level, either a senior leadership level or a strategic themes owner level. In this case, I'll add a brand new strategic theme. So this will be theme number 1. So this will be called this. We'll call this customer satisfaction. So I'm just going to add a new theme in here. If I wanted to, I could paste in other details or add to the description. We're just going to add this at a portfolio level. So we're adding a brand new strategic theme that we can then use later in our epics. So now that we have our customer satisfaction strategic theme in there, we're going to go into portfolio planning and go to the portfolio tree. On the tree here's where we're going to add a new portfolio item. I'm going to add it right here from the add button. We're going to call this new epic. We're going to call this epic to help make customers happy. So I'll just make sure we have that as the title. The strategic theme will be our new customer satisfaction strategic theme. So we'll just align that right here to that specific strategic theme. The type in this case is going to be an epic. Again, I could make this a capability or a feature if I wanted to, but we'll go ahead and create a new epic under there, and we'll put our epic description in here. On here, we're going to put our business value. We think this is a 44. Cycle time or time criticality, we'll make that a 62. Risk reduction, we talked about that, and that's going to be a 10. And then finally, the overall size of this, how long we think this is going to, how big this is going to be, we'll make it a 50. Right, so those are all the business value and risk reduction and swag scores we want to put in there. As I come down, I want to put my plan begin. We want to start this next week, say October 1st. And we want to finish it by the end of the year. So we'll put December 31st on there December 31st as a finish date on there. All right, for priority, we'll just make this a medium priority. And I think that's all we need to put in there. Again, we could put more details if we wanted to. Oftentimes, if we're referring from a different source, we could use the reference field here for a reference. But we've got our overall epic here to make customers happy. We'll go ahead and save that. Now this is a prioritized list, so it's here at the bottom, so I'll drag it up to the medium here. We'll put it above that new epic. Now under this, we want to create a child feature. We see we already have weighted shortest job first on this. Let's go ahead and create a child portfolio item, which will be a feature. So I'll create one feature underneath there. When I click on Add Child Portfolio Item, that gives me the ability to create a child, and it defaults some data in there. So we'll make this a feature. We'll just drop it down to a feature, and we're going to call this feature to make customer happy. So this is the feature that we're going to do. We'll leave the portfolio item in there. That's fine. The planning level, we're going to drop this down from easy support. We're going to put this down into our Agile release train. In this case, call center. So we want the feature to be at a lower level. That's at call center. And then I do want to put a plan begin and plan end date. So this specific feature, we're going to start this one November 5th, and we'll finish this one on December 5th. Okay, so now we have a feature planned in there. When I save that, we can see we have the feature under the epic. And at this point, we could go into product backlog and we could add our backlog items, but I'm just going to do them right in here. So I'm just going to create a new backlog item here. So we'll create a story by adding a child backlog item. So we'll create story number 1 right in here on this specific item. So now we have story number 1, and it's aligned to that feature. We're going to put an estimate point in there. We think this is a 5-point story. That's about all we need to put in for now. We won't put anything else in there, but we'll go ahead and save that. So that gives us our end-to-end view. So now we can actually plan this feature and this work as we go down into release planning. So again, enough detail, but let's go ahead and start to do our feature or our release planning under there. One thing we can do on the feature if we want is we can put our business value in here as well. So we think this is a 44, time criticality is a 23, and a risk reduction is a 77. And then we've got our swag or our estimate. We think this is going to be a 25-point story. So that'll give us a weighted shortest job first number in there as well. Okay, so we can use that when we go into our PI planning. All right, so I played the role of the senior leader or the epic owner and the feature owner here. Now we're going to be a product owner, and we're going to drop down into our release planning. So when I go into release scheduling, what I want to do is change my view here. And instead of being at the easy support level, we want to be down at the call center level. So I'm going to go into my call center art here. And under my call center art, here's my new feature that we just added. And we can look at it from a weighted shortest job first, and we can re-rank that if we want to. So we'll move that up a little bit. Let's bring it up here. So here's my overall feature. Now what I want to do is plan that feature. So we want to do this feature and the stories underneath it in a specific PI or release. This is what we want to do. So we'll take that feature and drag it down here into PI release 2. Okay, so that's added, those 25 story points down here into that target. It looks like we're over the target for that. Let's take a look at that specific release and how we've set it up. I don't think we had a target yet in there, so we'll put a target swag of 100 points in there, and we'll put a target estimate points of 100 as well, or maybe 90. We don't want to have as many as we've estimated. So we've got a target swag and a target estimate on the release now. Now we can see that we're still under our target, so that's good. We're at 71 points out of 100, so we still have some room on capacity, and this is the features we're planning on building in that specific release. So here's story number 1 that we added. Let's copy that. We'll create a story number 2 here and just put a couple extra units of work in there. And the other thing I want to do is align this story. So let me just first put a title on that one. So it's story 2 by editing that. And we'll save that change. So now we've done our release planning here under release scheduling, and we've got the 2 stories in there that we're pretty happy with. And we haven't aligned them to a team yet. I don't think we have the teams. Yeah, we do have the team. So let's go ahead and assign the team to this. So in this case, we're going to give this specific story 1 to the Bears team. We'll align that work to the Bears team. And we'll take story 2 and we'll align that to a different team. We'll give that to the core app team. Okay, now if I add the team to this specific view here by customizing this view, let me add the team in here. When I add team, now we can see the teams that are rolling up into that feature now, and you can see that both of those teams, the Bears team and the core app team, are actually contributing to build this new feature that we just added. So we've got the 2 stories in there, we've aligned it to the specific teams, and we've aligned it to release 2, and we can see what minimum marketable features there are in release 2 now, and that's showing us the details. All right, so that's release planning. The next thing we need to do is plan those 2 stories into a sprint. So we're going to leave the release planning section. We'll go down into team planning and sprint scheduling. So here we can see our stories number 1 and number 2 for that feature. Now we're going to plan that. We'll plan story 1 into sprint 3 by dragging it up and dropping it onto sprint 3. We'll take story 2 and we'll plan that into sprint 4. We can drop that up and drop that, and we can drag and drop that into sprint 4. So as I open up the details here now, we can see all of the work that's in there. We just have in sprint 4 our 1 story, it looks like, so we're good to go. Again, we have a target in there, but that's the 5 points we planned into sprint 4. We can also look at that from a sprint 3 perspective and see exactly how much is planned versus target, and then we can see that work here in sprint 3. We can also reprioritize or reorder the work here as well. All right, the last thing we need to do before we go into our sprint planning is go ahead and plan the backlog items. So we'll open up the details here. And this is what the team would probably be doing. They could go in and plan that work. There's a couple of ways we can add tasks on it, but I'm just going to go ahead and add tasks on this from a template. So I'm going to go back and copy these tasks and tests from this specific template that we set up. So here's a detailed story template. We'll select all of those tasks and we'll put all of those tasks on the backlog item. So we'll copy them right there. So here's our story number 1. We have all these tasks on there now. We went ahead and copied them in. We're going to add a couple tests in there as well. So we'll put test 1 and test 2. Okay, so we have 2 different tests on there just by adding them in here as well. Now, if we look at the details again on our plan as we're planning out that work, we can see that we have 2 tests and all those tasks that we just added. Again, we added the tasks through a template, and we manually added the tests here as well. All right, and so that is, let me save that. All right, so if we want to go and look at the details, we can go into our sprint scheduler and down to the detail planning section, and that'll show us the detailed plan. So if I go to sprint 3, we'll see the details out there for this specific work. There's my story, and here's my tasks and tests that I have in there. Again, we can edit it here if we want to manage or maintain the plan, but now it's really time for us to go and start to do the work. So we're going to go into our team planner now, and we're going to go all the way over to our team rooms and look at this in our specific team room. So when I go into the team room here for call center, we're gonna go turn off all of these panels, and I'm just gonna turn on the task board, and I'm gonna change my sprint to sprint 3 because that's where we know where that task is. And here are all the tasks that we added for story number 1. So the first one here, I'm gonna sign up for that one. I'm gonna make me the owner of that task. So now I'm the owner of that, and I'll move task 1 over here into in progress. When I'm done with that story, I'm gonna go ahead and track it. So I'm going to track this down to 0 to-do hours. So I put 5 hours on this already, and now I have 0 to do. So I'm going to go into my stand-up and say, hey, I finished all of my stuff. Maybe I'll even click on this, and it'll show me the work that I'm doing when I click on my icon. So I'm working on story 1, on task 1, and I've got it done. So I'll move it into completed. In that case, it's over here and completed. If we had a burn down, we would see the burn down out there for that sprint. And now I can quick close that, and I'll go ahead and quick close that story, that task. So then it leaves the board, and now I'm filtering for me, so I don't have any tasks. So now I can see that I have nothing done. If I want to see the closed items, I can say show closed items, and it'll show me what I've closed on this board. So there's my closed task. In addition to that, I can go to my test board, and we can show how we've tested that. So this test failed, test number 1 passed, and then test number 2 passed. So now we're good. We can close those tasks, and we can ultimately close the story. So that was really the end-to-end view of going through the life cycle of an individual strategic theme all the way down to the story level. If I did go ahead and complete the story, we'll go ahead and do it on the storyboard, and then we can look at that specific epic again. So when I move this over into accepted, this is showing me that this is a completed reporting category. So if I go back up into that specific story, into that specific feature now, which I can do by clicking on story 1 and going up into my portfolio item. Okay, so we can go up into the feature. We can see now that the progress for the feature is about 50% done because we've completed half the stories in there. We can go all the way up to the epic level, and we can check it out from the epic view. In this case, let's look at it from the scorecard, and it'll show us the epic scorecard here. So the epic scorecard says we're 50% done. It shows how much swag and how many points we have on that specific epic. There's some trends here that show us which teams are working on that, and we can also look at which projects we're working on in terms of that. So PI release 2, we know that's the project. We can also see that there's no blocked work items on that. We have no unestimated stories, and we think we can get all of that work done. So from a dashboard view, if we look at the dashboard view of that, that shows us again the features underneath there, the projects that we're going to, or planning levels that we're building underneath this as well, so we can be confident that as we're going through the work and tracking that work all the way through, that we can see everything that's being done and how we're going ahead and building out that specific work. Where are we from a progress perspective, and we can move our way through that. The last thing I want to do is just set a dependency on that work. So if we go back into that story one more time, I want to make those 2 stories dependent on each other, which we didn't do originally. So in this case, I'm going to go into story number 2, and I'm going to make story number 1 an upstream dependency of that. So I'll just open up the details page for story 2. We'll go into the relationships here. And under those relationships, as I go to upstream dependencies, we'll assign story 1 on that. So I'll just assign it by clicking assign. I'll just type story 1 in here, we'll find it. Oops, story, hopefully it'll find story 1. There we go. Here's story number 1. That's the one that we went ahead and accepted already, but we'll add that as an upstream dependency. There it is. And now as I visualize this work, we can see the visualization of that work now. This is showing us the upstream story 1. Here's my story 2, and story 2 is rolling up into the specific feature, up into that specific epic. So that's the end-to-end view of how we can create an epic, align that epic up to the strategic theme, come all the way through to story 2, and then down to story 1. Just to close out that, let's go ahead and look at that epic, and then we'll go all the way up to the strategic theme. So I'll click on the epic. We'll go up to this customer satisfaction strategic theme now, and we'll see how well we're doing on that. So there is a scorecard view of that as well. So if we want to see the details of all the work that we're doing on that specific scorecard, And this will show us that we're 50% complete on all of the work that's rolling up into the customer satisfaction new strategic theme that we created. And we can also go in and visualize that, or we can see the details. So if I visualize it, it'll show us all of that work. So here's the strategic theme. Here's the epic and the feature that we created. We're good on the feature level. It'll show us the 2 stories. And if I ignore closed work and update that, we just have 1 story left to do. And there you go. That's the bullseye. So hopefully that showed you a nice end-to-end view of how you can go from the highest levels of planning in our solution all the way down into the tasks and all the way back up again from portfolio planning all the way down to team. Thanks and have a great day.